There's a lot to learn if you want to be an English teacher, and I've got the 15 skills that all English teachers should focus on if they want to be an ace in the classroom and get the love, respect, and adoration of all their students. And this all begins by clicking that subscribe button. Just do it. Just do it. What's up, guys? It's Chris Westergaard from The Language House, your ESL guru in Prague. In this video, I'm covering 15 skills that you should practice if you want to be great in the classroom. These are the same skills that we train our trainees at The Language House on our TEFL course. Speaking of which, if you want to teach abroad, if you want to move and live in a foreign country, if you want to train with me and the rest of the staff at The Language House, check our course out. We run one of the most popular and intense TEFL certification courses in the world. With that, let's get into the 15 skills. Good teachers know how to make their materials pop in terms of the presentation, visuals, and the content they use. Add a little bit of color, cut things out, use props, and adapt to make boring worksheets and speaking activities come to life. Teachers, big tip. If you struggle with material creation or with lesson planning, or if you just don't even know where to begin, I mean, so many people contact me and they say, I'm a new teacher, I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to teach my students, and I'm freaking out. If you're in that category, after this video, watch the video first, but after the video, head over to the website fluentize.com and get yourself a year membership. I like this company so much that I get memberships for all of the grads of the Language House, and I contacted them about a year ago, and now all of the viewers of my channel can get 20% off their entire site if you use my code CHRIS20. These guys will save you hundreds of hours of lesson planning each year, and they really make teaching easy. Their site has hundreds of lessons ready to go. All of them have all of the materials, and they're all built around an engaging video. So save the hassle, save the stress, and get a membership to Fluentize. STT stands for Student Talking Time, and it should be prioritized over everything. Teaching English, it's not like other subjects. It's more like being an athletic coach where your students are the athletes. We want them to be doing the majority of the work. Some general principles are to use a lot of pair and group work, to make your classroom more student-centered and interactive, and to always have activities that push student talking time whenever possible. Good teachers prioritize student talking time in their lesson. Have you ever had a teacher that could make even the most mundane topics engaging? That is the magic of engagement. We want our students engaged. You can't really motivate students if they don't find your presentation or even yourself interesting. A couple things that you can do, it's the way that you carry yourself, it's your voice, it's the activities and the props that you use, and it's going to be like the fun games and the competitions that you incorporate. It's also going to be your personal flares. You should try to engage your students right when you enter into the class. Contrary to popular belief, in a language classroom, less is always more. You want something to work on? Master your own voice. You want it to be that you don't speak that much, and when you do, you make every single word count. You want your voice to be clear, you want it to be audible, you want it to be that the language that you use, your students understand. This is such an underrated tool that teachers oftentimes neglect, and it can really be a pivotal point in your lesson. So practice your voice. I've got a video on this that details everything that you need to do. Make your students laugh and they'll love you. Humor is such a powerful thing to incorporate into your lessons. It's such a necessary skill and kind of a hard skill to improve, but if you can do it, you will see immediate results. Guys, I've watched thousands of teachers teach, like literally thousands of different teachers teach, and I've seen some really, really bad teachers too. Some of these bad teachers though, they were funny, and because they were funny, their students loved them. Like, it's actually really sad because there were other people who were much better than them, but all of the students liked the bad, funny teacher. And I would go up to the students and I would say, you know, he's really bad. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. And they would say, yes, but he is funny. We like him because he is funny. I was saying, all right, so Obviously, be a good teacher too, but if you're funny and good, you can do whatever you want. Like, you can rob banks. When I think about teaching and I think about what is actually happening in the classroom, it really all revolves around eliciting. And this is essentially pulling information out from students. When many people think about education or learning a language, in their brain, they think of a professor up in front of the board lecturing to students, and the students are maybe taking notes. But in reality, we don't want it to be that way. We want our students to be active participants in the entire process. So use elicits, both verbal and nonverbal, and use guided discoveries to pull that meaning and to teach that meaning in more of an interactive way. Good teachers elicit all of the time. I've got some videos that will give you some tips on how to do that. On the flip side to eliciting is CCQing. And CCQs stand for concept check questions. Essentially, what CCQs are is they're a way of checking comprehension without asking, do you understand? And you might ask, well, why not just ask students if they've understood? It seems pretty basic, right? But the reality is if you ask a student if they've understood something, they will probably just say yes. And they might say yes because they want you to leave them alone, or they might say yes because they think they've understood, but they're wrong. So instead, you ask CCQs. You're going to be doing this for grammar, for Lexis, and even just for directions. You should always be CCQing, and you can use this in any type of teaching environment. I've got a video on it over here. Demoing, a very easy thing to do, but also really important. It kind of goes hand in hand with the earlier skill, the economy of language, teacher's voice. A lot of teachers, what they do is they get up and they lecture directions to people. Don't do that. Instead, show the students what they're supposed to do. If it's a role play, you play the role. If it's a fill in the blank sheet, you do it. Demo it out. Try to get rid of this idea that you can communicate with your voice, because with lower levels you can't. And not only is it good for directions, but it's a great way to sell that activity. If you do a fun demo of your role play, if you play that role really well, your students are going to see that it's a fun activity. They're going to jump in it. So demo everything all of the time. Another big skill is to try to run your entire course in L2. That means no L1, no mother tongue, nothing, no translation. We want this completely in English. Some of you, especially if you speak your students' language, might go, that seems really daunting or it's impractical, but trust me, if you have these other skills down, you should be able to run it all in L2 without any problem. It will help them learn the language better if it's all in English all the time. You've got your students in groups. Great. They're using a lot of student talking time. Even better. It all goes to waste though if you're kind of in the background, passively watching them. You don't want to do that. The next skill is monitoring, and this means you need to get close. You need to probably crouch down and get to their eye level. And while you're here, you're going to be doing a couple things. You're going to obviously be error correcting them. You're going to be doing also a lot of positive reinforcement and pushing the good things that they're doing. You're going to be controlling for L1, so making sure that they're using English all of the time. You're going to be pushing the specific language and grammatical structures that you want. And also, you're just going to be hanging out a bit and building rapport. That's important too. Good teachers monitor. You need to be able to monitor to do error correction. Speaking of which, error correction. One of the most important skills for any teacher is their ability to error correct. You can be the most engaging teacher in the world. You can have the highest student talking time. You can use the best materials, but it all goes to waste if you don't error correct. Contrary to popular belief, students crave to be error corrected. And the reason is obvious. They want to get better. And students will get better through your ability to error correct them. The trick to error correction is to not to tell them what they're doing wrong. You want to elicit those mistakes out, and you want your elicits to be fast and to the point and to be quick, so you get those corrections fast. This will allow you to error correct in a really seamless way that's really tight and sharp, and that's what you want. Pace and flow. Nothing is worse than watching a teacher and their lesson just kind of drags on, right? Everything's so slow. Like, everybody's so bored. Like, that is just It's so terrible to watch this. If you suffer from insomnia, this would be the perfect thing to watch to put you right to sleep, as a teacher just dragging on. Good teachers have a brisk pace. You should set your activities up in advance. They should have clear breaks when they end, and you as a teacher should be pushing the pace to reach their completion. Your class starts on time. Great, everybody's in their desks. Perfect, it ends on time. Even better. The desks are arranged to your liking, your materials are all organized, and everything just kind of works. Skilled teachers incorporate a variety of tricks to keep that ship running smoothly. Number one, prepare what you can in advance. Number two, delegate specific duties to your class. You don't have to be doing it all. Get them to do it. And number three, use your leadership skills to get it all done. Use your voice, use your gestures, use your body posture, and the simple way that you interact with people. If you have these leadership skills, your students will follow your command. Your lessons should have a clear goal in terms of the language that they're using and the improvements that you want your students to make. A lot of teachers just get in there and they kind of teach a bunch of stuff and then they leave. But good teachers should visualize in a lesson, like, where do you want your students at the end of the lesson? How do you want them sounding? How many mistakes you want them making? What type of language you want them to be using? What's their volume like? Contractions, blah, 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 all those other things. And you want to push your students to what that goal is. So what I do in my lessons, I try to visualize, like, I really think, like, what do I want my students to be doing? How do I want them to be sounding? And through error correction, positive reinforcement, studies, and everything else in the lesson, I try to push them to that specific point. And that point can be for a lesson, but it can also, as mentioned, be for many lessons for the entire semester that I have with them. And I'll spend a little bit more time here because it's really important. When students see that your brain is thinking this way, that you have a goal for them, you will just kind of skyrocket in their brain in terms of an educator. Like, so many students would come up to me and say, I actually feel like there's some sort of progression taking place. Like, I understand where I was and I understand where you want me to be and I understand how I'm supposed to get there. And this is great because in so many of my other lessons, we showed up, we played some games, blah, 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 and I left, but I didn't know where I was and I didn't know where I was supposed to be. So this is important, having goals and reaching those goals. We are on the last skill. Did you watch the whole thing? Are you still watching? If yes, grab yourself a juice box because that's pretty incredible. The last skill on my list is empathy. Good teachers have empathy. And when we think of empathy, a lot of times we think about like caring and feeling, and that is true. But when I think about empathy in the classroom, it's more about reading the room. The only way that I can motivate and reach my students is I need to try to see the world through their eyes. Students are different. People are different. There are students who I can have fun with and I can make jokes with and I can even kind of criticize a little bit, kind of have playful banter, and they'll love it and they'll do it back to me and everybody thinks it's funny and everybody's gonna laugh. There's other students, if I do that same exact thing, they're gonna cry. Like, they're just gonna start crying. You know, how do I know which one I can do that with? And part of it is just, as mentioned, being able to look at people and to try to make those flash judgments. You're not going to be right all of the time, but you have to start doing it a little bit. Some classes will want you to dress more formally. Other classes will prefer it if you're more casual. Some students are going to like really interactive, wild, bonkers activities. Other people aren't going to like that. They're going to want things more subdued. So the way to do this is you can predict it a little bit based on age and like cultural backgrounds and other things. But a lot of it is simply like looking at your class and taking in all of this information. And then if something isn't working, or if you're getting a vibe that is off a little bit, you have to pivot and you have to reach their expectations. Guys, and that is it. 15 skills, work on these. They're really important. As always, thanks for watching.